Now we will begin a new part of this course that is another set of rights not so well related or indirectly related with the human body and the human being. That is the political rights, the rights of the citizen in front, in the face of the authorities, and the relation with the authorities. And finally, well, that will be just two ideas of indigenous rights, because we have seen a little, and we will see a little more in 2 weeks, because indigenous rights is a set of rights that of culture, identity, customs, many things. So we are seeing all these kind of things during the course of human rights. So let's begin now with political rights. That would be first learning objective of today. For today, we have uh, an incredible war. the now not the civil war, but the revolution against Britain, against the British Empire that took place, well, almost would be close to the 3 centuries ago, because this war is quite related with political rights, civil and political rights, but specifically we will see how many new ideas in the history of the knowledge appears specifically in this war. So, for sure you have heard something about the American Revolution and the beginning of the American Revolution. Well, when America was discovered by the Spaniards, they realized that there is a big continent, no? And many things happen uh, with the Portuguese, with the British Empire. So at the very beginning, they realized, well, some colonies, the first 13 colonies, realized, well, that these are, well, of the people of the British Empire, that these are well placed to be there, no? Better than in the UK. Why? Because in the UK at that time was not freedom of, of religion. No? You have to be, you have to have just your one possible religion, that is to say the Anglicans, then will be the Presbyterians in the States, and well, and so on. No? And they decide, well, let's move to another place in which we can find some freedom. And that's why you know very well the history. They arrived there in the very beginning of the 17th century. They founded so many little kind of states, always depending on the UK. Uh, his king at the time was the king of the British Empire. But all of them with a lot of autonomy. The people, for example, of Pennsylvania, well, used to live their lives quite with any contact with the people of New Jersey or with Virginia. No contact at all with the people from Georgia. All of them more or less directly related to the crown, to the king of that lives in London. So This is the beginning. This is important to understand so many political issues in the history of the United States and in the history of the world also, both. So that was more or less the beginning. After 2 centuries of living together of these peoples, more or less what was the the situation in North America. First, more or less, there were no aristocratic groups as in the island, no? Where in the island were the lord, the king, many titles of power. Well, here, no, here, no. Also, well, with some power, some bishops there in the British Empire. But well, here in America was so different, so different. They were more or less the same. As you know, the the colony of the British Empire here was so different that in South America. In South America, there was the mix of the ethnic groups. No, the Spaniards were mixed with the local people. Here, they used to move to another part. I asked someone to admit people, so I don't know what happened, but in any case, I don't know what. Well, in any case, let me see. Well, so let's continue. The British colonies used to move all the people from, well, or to kill any indigenous peoples there and to move. So the indigenous tribes and peoples more or less were going from that way. The people who were able to survive here. No? So that was quite different from the South America. Then the prevalent language here, English, all of them used to speak English. There is a thing in common. No? This is interesting also. No? Then the same colonial principles as institutions. They were British citizens. They realized that they have the same rights of the British citizen. So, and was so clear at the very beginning because they born in the UK and here, and here after one generation and another, they realize, well, we are part of the British Empire, we are a colony, but we, our families are from there. Our families are from there, so we have the same rights, no, and we have the same common law and the jurisprudence that began in the UK. They apply exactly the same there. You can see in many places around the world, also here in so many countries of Africa. But that is very interesting. So the approach to the law, to the principles, to the institutions, to how to do things is very typical from here. If you go, for example, to South America, you will see that even the cities are built in a different way. You know, the main square, or with the church and the county and well, many things. And in the Anglo-Saxon world is a little different. No? Well, same legal system, common law. So this is important. This is important. understand better what will happen with the the revolution. So, days before of the American Revolution, the map in North America was like this. As you can see here, in red, the 13 colonies. And little by little, they were gaining by battles, buying territories, negotiating, all these kind of lands, no? As you can see, that is interesting, no? So as you can see, there is also many problems here with Spain in East Florida and West Florida too. And in yellow, well, in yellow the Spaniards gains, well, in yellow, well, so as you can see, the United States at that time, well, was not the same size as now. Well, there is many stories here how they fought against Spain, against, well, also the Portuguese, and in the north. The north, remember, there were some of the French peoples, the Portuguese, especially in the south and in some Caribbean island, more or less. And you can see an unexplored territories here. No? So they are conquering little by little this part of the world, all the European countries. So, more or less. Let's go again with this. And it's the same map, but a little more easy now. With the 13 colonies, the new territories that, as you saw in the last map, there were many battles there, many places in which it was not so clear who will be the owner. Spain was too big at that time, no? So this is interesting because in this part of the United States, they used to, well, to have many commercial relationships with many parts of the world, specifically from with the UK, as you can see here. You can see that what the UK used to send to the United States textiles, furniture, luxuries, for example, cards for playing, for games. Tea also, tea they used to send. The British tea. I don't know if it is the best one. Here you have also a good tea, a very good tea. And on the other hand, the United States used to send them lumber, forest, fish, well, oil, and gunpowder, rice, tobacco, and many things. And also to Africa, run iron, gunpowder, clothes, tools. Remember the fabrics of cotton that we talk about were developed on that time. Well, there is there is also the traffic of slaves. Incredible, what a pity. And well, more or less this is interesting because, as you can see, there was a lot of relation, especially with the British Empire, with the Ireland, with London. And so this is the king of that time, called King George III. the third, well, an important king with a lot of land around the world, more or less. This is a coin, I think so. Well, with his face, as you can see, no? And this is quite interesting because, as I told you, every colony used to have relationships, uh, negotiations, trade, of these kind of things, but directly with the crown, with London, directly, directly. And between Massachusetts and New York, for example, there was no good relation. Well, not bad even, but no relation at all. They used to have their own authorities in each colony, their own organization, their own also statute laws given by the crown directly to each one, and that's why that is the seat of the federal government. You will see that. So what happened after that? That, Rosalind, remember that you have to help me admitting people, no? Okay. So that the king had a lot of war. Once again, the same as the French Revolution, the same as the, well, so many revolutions. So war means to spend so much money to destroy treasures, things, buildings, probably many times, ships, and you need money after that. After a war, you need a lot of money to recover yourself. So the king was aware of that and decided, well, what do we have to do? Well, we have to ask money to in any place, especially in the colonies. In the colonies, why we have the for what we have colonies? What are they for? Well, to pay us, no? So the king decided, well, let's put the Stamp Act, and he signed the Stamp Act. What it means in 1765? Well, that any anything, any paper should have the stamp. What kind of papers could be? Well, any letter to the post to send, well, a stamp. You have to pay the king. And if you want, for example, also you want to buy cards for games for play, well, you have to put a stamp there and to pay the king. So many things, no? So it's a new tax in the colonies, and that's the difference. It was in the colonies, no? So they say, wait a minute, we are British citizens, and you know very well from the Carta Magna of 1215, all the British citizens have the right to have a representative in the parliament to say if they want that tax or not, to approve or not the decisions about tax of the crown. That is important. And we have no representative. In the elections, we never choose anyone. No? There is not elected a member of the lower house in the parliament of the UK, of London. So we need to have someone there. So, and here they refuse to pay that. They refuse to pay that because there were so many taxes also for the tea, also for many goods. and well, at that point, it was so strong the discussion that the king decided to ban it, but probably some other things. But he decided, well, let's put just the duties for the tea, because remember, no, what you have in America, some officers, governors appointed by the king directly here, and so in America, but not so many people. There were many locals at that time that, and also, well, not only locals, but also, well, many people against the crown. No? Some of them loyals to the crown, some of them not. So there were many issues, many battles. There was also, and after that, the crown said, well, we will put a duty for all the for the tea and for, well, also the things that the goods that America sent to us. I will put a duty. So there was at the very beginning a commercial battle, that is interesting. So what happened? That in 1770, they decide, well, let's begin well, to show that you are not, we disagree absolutely with the decision of the crown, and they uh, took all the tea boxes of a ship and they throw it to the river. More or less $1 million, I think so, at that time. Was so the king was very hate. He hate that action. He sent his troops. I think that, well, 1,000 or 2,000, I don't remember well. And well, there was a massacre in which not so many people, 5 people, but in my case, incredible. So sad. Well, things were going every time worked. So, as you can imagine, the relations between the crown and America were not so good at that time, no? And this is interesting because they realize that they have to do something. They have to do something because every time is going worst things. The colonies realize, well, for example, Georgia, if that is happening in the north, probably will happen the same here. So there was the beginning of a common feeling in the 13 colonies. So they decided, well, let's meet to resolve these things, to see what we have to do, the 13 colonies, no? Because things are going not so well. And in, well, there was, let me see, yeah. And there was they decided, well, let's meet together. Let's do a congress of the colonies. So that was the first congress of the new, in which all the colonies meet them. And realize, well, you have that governors, we have this one, and also, well, these authorities, and they decide, well, to be united, no? So Virginia proposed the celebration of an annual Congress to discuss the united interest of America. And the first one was in September 5 of 1774 in Philadelphia. At the very beginning, they thought that probably the capital will be in Philadelphia, but at this in this very first Congress there was not the idea of independence. Uh, so they were all colonies except Georgia, and they signed the declaration and resolved. So this is the document that you are seeing in your screen, and there is a quite interesting beginning of the document. This is more or less the beginning, the thing that you can see here. No? After some complaints, you read that the inhabitants of the English colonies in North America, by the immutable laws of nature, the principles of English constitution, and the several charters or compacts, have the following rights. So the foundation, the grounds of the rights in the mind of the Dutch cities and those citizens were three, as you can read. No? First, the immutable laws of nature. Now, at that time, they have specifically the notion of a natural law of John Locke in their mind, principally. Then the principle of the English constitutions and the several charters or compacts. So, well, as every British citizen, it means that they feel at that time, obviously, that they were part of the British Empire and they were citizens with full rights. No? So, and I have to admit some people. So this is important because the base, as you can see here, no, the base of it's so clear for me also. No? The base of any civil and political rights, you can see that probably could be the same. The laws of the country and the laws of the nature also. No, you cannot be against the reality. Finally, that's important. No, they will change in the Declaration of Independence, and they will put just the immutable laws of nature. That this is just the beginning. They have not the decision, not in their mind normally, the decision of that. But after signing that, they began a boycott, a commercial boycott. We will not buy anything from the UK. We will send something because we want money, but just in a few months, and then we will stop of buying anything from. So the UK was the king was absolutely surprised with this, and he decided, well, you want war, I will give you war. And they realized, well, things are going worse. And in the second Congress, that is incredible. Just in the second Congress, well, they realized, well, we have to do something. If the king wants war, we will declare ourselves independent. No, and that's why there was the Second Continental Congress. The second, imagine that, in the second one, just the second one, all the colonies were together. And in July 2, of 1776, they signed the independence, the Declaration of Independence. Remember, July 2. And it's incredible because the United States used to celebrate the Independence Days in July 4. Why? Why? Well, it is so easy because they signed in July 2, but not all the states. Well, at the very beginning, some of them they were late, and that's why they celebrate the Independence Days in July 4. But the Declaration of Independence have the date of, well, signed in July 2. Well, and it is incredible. Here, as I mentioned you, there is no longer an appeal to the common law, as in the Declaration of Results, Declaration of Results, but not to the English rights, to the rights of the British citizen, but to the self-evident truth, no, and based also on equality and the same dignity of everyone. Well, more or less the thing that will be the same in the French Revolution. And all of them have more or less the same ideas. Well, we are equal. Now it's so common. At that time, it was not so common. So that is quite interesting because after that, well, the commercial boycott and the commercial war transformed to a real war, a real war between them, no, after the declaration. For the king, was at the very beginning, well, just an issue of the colonies, no? He can lose his colonies, so let's put all our ships and all our war machine to fight against that. We will not lose that. And these were more or less the battles of the American Revolution. As you can see, the ships in red are of the king, and specifically first here was the Tea Party and the problems of the tea that I mentioned you, and the massacre here, more or less. And there is also what South Carolina, so another kind of battles. More or less, as you can see, the plan was 2 attacks in the north and in the south, and little by little, well, to have all the colonies back again. But as you know very well how it ends, no? In any case, I will put you well, a video, but before that, I will show you a kind of constitution that they signed that time in 1777. Yeah. This is not the constitutions of the United States of North of America, but the Article of the Confederation. The Constitution was not the first document. The first one was the Article of the Confederation. And it is incredible. Remember, the moment in which they signed that, the moment was, well, the very beginning of the war, the very beginning of the war. And that's why the Article of Confederation, they decided each state retain his sovereignty. Yeah. Each one will be autonomous. They can do whatever they want. was more or less a kind of constitution written to fight against the most powerful country in the world, that was at that time the British Empire, no? So it was a document for that, probably, more or less. It was also a kind of confederation also. And there was just one institution, one principal institution, like an assembly of ambassadors, in which each state has one vote in the unique organ, no? To guide at the very beginning, just to guide the war. But this institution, this organ has no power, for example, to ask any kind of tax. It can only be alive with the contributions of each state. Well, if you want to send something, perfect. I will appreciate so much, and I will try to survive with your contribution. Well, as you can see, when you have a common enemy, well, this document will work very well. It happened. But what will happen after that? Well, we will see. It's not so easy, no? Now I will share you a video of the American Revolution, the battle.
The American Revolutionary War, also called the American Revolution, was initiated by 13 North American colonies of Great Britain against the kingdom over their opposition to its direct taxation and lack of colonial representation. War broke out on April 19, 1775, when the British confronted colonial rebels in Lexington, Massachusetts. It was initially a conflict between Britain and its colonies, until France joined as America's ally, turning it into an international war. What triggered the American Revolution? Before the flare-up of the American Revolutionary War, there had been growing tensions and conflicts between the British Crown and its colonies. To raise the revenue from colonies, the mother country took many measures. The Sugar Act of 1764 aimed at ending the smuggling trade in sugar and molasses from the French and Dutch West Indies. The Stamp Act in the following year was the first British parliamentary attempt to raise revenue through direct taxation of all colonial commercial and legal papers, newspapers, pamphlets, cards, almanacs, and dice. The Townshend Acts, in 2 years after that, were a series of 4 acts in an attempt to exert authority over the American colonies. And the Tea Act was introduced 6 years later to save the East India Company, a key part of the British economy. These acts provoked great anger among many colonists. They resented the taxes, insisting that only their colonial assemblies could impose taxes on the people, and consequently, a rally was held behind the slogan, "No taxation without representation." Tensions and skirmishes ran high through many events, namely the Boston Massacre, the burning of the Gaspee and Rhode Island, and especially the 1773 Boston Tea Party, which provoked a crackdown by the British Parliament, including closing Boston Harbor and passing some acts to restore order in Massachusetts. In response to this, in September 1774, many colonial leaders, including George Washington of Virginia, John and Samuel Adams of Massachusetts, Patrick Henry of Virginia, and John Jay of New York, gathered in Philadelphia to discuss the colony's opposition to British rule. But the First Continental Congress's attempt to demand independence from Britain did not go so far. Tensions flared up on the night of April 18, 1775, when British troops marched to Concord, Massachusetts to seize an arms cache. It is the shot heard round the world in the battles of Lexington and Concord on the next day that kicked off the American Revolutionary War. Declaration of Independence. In June 1775, Continental Army, with General George Washington as its commander, was formed in the Second Continental Congress in Philadelphia. That same month, American troops were defeated by the British at the Battle of Bunker Hill in Massachusetts. This battle, on one hand, inflicted heavy casualties on the Crown troops, but on the other hand, it prepared the ground and boosted the confidence of the inexperienced Americans in the upcoming battles against the enemy. Throughout that fall and winter, the war went badly for the Americans, as they were outnumbered and outpowered by the British forces. However, in late winter, the balance of the fight was shifted when British artillery was captured at Fort Ticonderoga in New York. In March 1776, the British, led by General William Howe, the commander-in-chief of the British Army, retreated to Canada to prepare for a major invasion of New York. 1 year after the beginning, the Revolutionary War was at full scale, and by June 1776, many colonists demanded independence from Britain. On July 4, 1776, the Continental Congress adopted a Declaration of Independence written mainly by Thomas Jefferson. That same month, a large British fleet was sent to New York with the aim to crush the rebellion. 2 months later, routed by Howe's Redcoats on Long Island, Washington's troops were forced to evacuate from New York City. However, the surprise attack in Trenton and the battle near Princeton, New Jersey, after that, marked another small victory for the colonials and revived the flagging hopes of the rebels. Battle of Saratoga, the turning point. Aiming at separating the most rebellious groups in New England from the other colonies, the British came up with a strategy involving two main prongs of attack. One, led by General John Burgoyne, marching south from Canada, planned to meet the other, led by Howe, on the Hudson River. In July, in an attempt to retake Fort Ticonderoga, Burgoyne's troops suffered a devastating loss to the Americans, while Howe troops moved southward from New York to confront Washington's army near the Chesapeake Bay. On September 11th, the Americans were defeated at Brandywine Creek, Pennsylvania, and 14 days after that, the British entered Philadelphia. On October 4th, Washington struck back at Germantown, Maryland, but was compelled to withdraw to winter quarters at Valley Forge. In the north, the story was different. After being defeated by American forces in the first battle at Freeman's Farm, New York, and the second one at Bemis Heights, New York, General Burgoyne and his men were forced to surrender on October 17th. The American victory in Saratoga was considered the turning point of the war, as it involved France, which had been secretly aiding Americans since 1776, but was reluctant to declare itself openly as an ally. The American Revolution first sparked as a civil conflict between Britain and its colonies, then became an international war. Stalemate in the North, battle in the South. Following the American victory in Saratoga, New York, France and America signed treaties of alliance on February 6, 1778, in which France provided America with troops and warships. During the winter at Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, Washington's forces received training and discipline from France. On June 28, 1778, when withdrawing from Philadelphia, Henry Clinton, who replaced Howe to take over the British forces, and his troops were attacked by Washington's army near Monmouth, New Jersey. This battle ended in a draw, letting Clinton's army get to New York safely. As the joint attack against the British in late July failed, France and America besieged Newport, Rhode Island. The war was locked in a stalemate phase in the north. In the south, Georgia and Charleston, South Carolina were occupied by the British in early 1779 and May 1780, respectively. Under the command of Lord Charles Cornwallis, British forces launched an offensive that defeated the Americans at Camden in mid-August. Later, on October 7th, American troops led by Isaac Shelby and John Sevier defeated Major Patrick Ferguson and one-third of General Cornwallis's army at Kings Mountain. In early 1781, General Daniel Morgan routed the British at Cowpens, South Carolina, marking America's victory on January 17th. The end of the colonial era in the U.S. The last major battle of the American Revolutionary War took place at Yorktown, Virginia in 1781. Washington and French commander Rochambeau teamed up to prepare for an attack against Clinton's forces with a total of around 14,000 soldiers and 36 French warships. Being surrounded and outpowered on land and sea by the Americans and French, Cornwallis and his entire army were forced to surrender on October 19, 1981. Following the battle at Yorktown and Cornwallis' surrender, the British still had its men stationed in some areas until the removal of their troops from Charleston and Savannah in late 1782. The war officially ended with the Treaty of Paris on September 3, 1783, by which Britain recognized American independence.
This is the principal battle in which so many people died, of Gettysburg, and you can see here the British surrender. Benjamin Lincoln, flanked by French and American troops also. Incredible. So as you can see, the probably nobody knows, but without the support of France, probably the American people will not make it the independence. No. But the history is the history. No? And this is one of the paintings of the Treaty of Paris in 1783, almost at the end of the war. There will be a little battles after that. All people used to consider that. You can see Franklin there. But this is a strange painting. I don't know if you realize that there is not something strange in this painting. That you can see at the left all the American people, but at the right, no one, no one, because the king and the people of the British Empire didn't accept to be there for the painter and to be able to paint all of that. So it is an unfinished painting, as you can see. It's incredible. So remember, they had at that time the Articles of the Confederation. And they realized after the war, that the articles were not working, no? Because first, all the states. Imagine that after that war against the principal empire of the world at that time, they had no money at all to support the union. And also, if you have a great enemy, you will be united. But if you have no enemy after the war, what you will do with the Confederation? Nothing. You will live your life alone. You will put your tax for your country, for the Confederation, and so the result of this, as you can see here, the 13 colonies, his ally, France, also Spain helped giving access to the troops and with the little things in this battle, and also the Dutch Republic that were those guys at that time not a power as the Ottoman Empire in the past, but they helped a little with another battles in Europe, focusing the attention of the king in other place. And that's why then the war ended at this. And on the other hand, you have the Great Britain, obviously here, but also in America, the loyalists that helped so much the crown here to maintain as far as they could those territories. No, the common leaders. Here you can see King George III, the third of that name. And the strength, more that you can see that was not so easy to win without the help. No, the army. Obviously in the army But remember that Great Britain had at that time a very trained army around the world, and the American people know. So this is not well balanced at the very beginning uh, of the war, but at the end, with the support of the French people that were very good trained, they absolutely won. And the state navies you can see there, also the troops, German troops also you can see there, American Indians, and well, and many things, no? And the casualties, well, not so many people as in the battles of China. Here, the lower numbers, but in any case, well, incredible. No? There was also a smallpox, as in Mexico, as you remember, last week, the smallpox that killed the half of the population in Tenochtitlan. Here also the United States suffered that, but they won this time. And for our subject, is important to see that they realized the Article of the Confederation will not work. So they decide, well, we have to change this. This document is not enough. And this is so important for our subject, because first you can see that you have the right to change, well, and to whatever you want the documents to be in, which in any political form that you want. But an important lesson here is that you have first to realize what you are. No? They realize the article is not working. Let's sign a new document that fits better to our reality. They signed the Constitution in 1787. So, but after a lot of discussions, there were so many newspapers talking about many things, especially the Federalist newspaper, papers that were distributed around the colonies, well, signed by Jay, by Hamilton, but many people saying, well, we need a federation, not a confederation with a lot of freedom of the states, but a little more strong central government. That is the idea, no? And this is the most famous ship of the United States until today. This is the first, the oldest iron ship that we have in the world now. Was built at that time. The name was given by Washington. And Washington said, well, some names. One of them was Constitution. This is the ship called Constitution of the United States. So, and you can see it's with iron. The first at that time were all of wood, but some of them, well, why not replace the wood with iron? No? And this way it will be helpful for the world. So this is, well, the oldest iron ship of the world nowadays. So the Constitution. So there were many issues to decide, so many things, and this is very important. All the ideas that were around their minds at that time. So remember that at the very beginning, before the American Revolution, all colonies had, well, a direct relationship with the crown, no? With the crown. So it will not longer exist as you can imagine. Why? Because there is no crown now. But the usual custom of have a central government, they have in their mind. So realize that they can do the same, but within the state. Well, within the territories, no, in a federation, and that's why they realize we are working like a federation. No, we always would have a relationship not between us, but with a principal, a main government that is higher to all of us. Well, let's maintain this. We are like that. Let's maintain this. This is so important also. No? You're planning to reform your constitution, or I don't know, it will be able with the BBI and all the things. No? But well, first, what we have to do to realize what we are ourselves, no? To write a good document, not just a paper, like the article of the Confederation, no? So then there was a problem because nowadays things is so different, no? It's so easy to see everywhere people promoting democracy. Remember, this is the first democracy in the last 1,000 years or 2,000 years. After, I don't know, I think that principally the Greeks had also democracy, and or the Roman Empire at some level, in some part of its history. But well, this is in the last at least 1,000 years or more, the first democracy. So how to deal with that? How to deal with that? It was not so easy. It was not so easy. Everywhere were monarchies in the world, or colonies. So how to deal with democracy? Because not all people have so many good education, no? And that was the problem at that moment, and explain history. Yeah. So Washington realized that, well, there are so many people, so many poor people without knowledge, and at that time they have not the communication that we have now. For example, if you will sign a vote and you put your signature in a vote, or to vote to any candidate, well, it's not so easy if you don't know how to read, because there will be no photo. That the camera didn't exist at that time, no? What you will do? And you don't know, you don't know the biography of the people. You have no access to media, so with poor people, well, it's so difficult. So in the north, specifically in the north, they said, well, remember, the big population probably could be in the south, the big population, the states with big population, and with less population in the north. And there is also Rhode Island, an island. Well, not just that, but so there were many problems. No? Do we should give vote to anyone or not? Because, well, they know that there is so many problems with the people not educated, no? That is so easily with one speech to do with them anything, anything, no? To change their mind is easy. So they decide, well, let's put some levels, not direct elections, but indirectly elections of the president. So they will elect some other guys, the electors, and the electors will elect the president of the United States. This way, there will be some levels. It is a little more complicated, this, but I'm simplifying you things, because in this also plays a great role the legislation, the regulation of each state. But more or less that was the idea at the very beginning. It's for the election of the president of the United States. And what about the parliament? Well, there was an issue, a very big issue in the parliament, because remember, the biggest states with a big population, what they want? Well, let's put votes of everyone. No? Everyone can vote, even slaves, even slaves of the South. Remember, but just because they realize that it could help them. They will have no other right, but they can vote. And in the North, they say no, not at all. No. We are the same. We are absolutely the same. So it means if we are the same, the states, each state should have the same votes as in the Confederation, and we will not move in this decision. And there was a great issue there, no, about this. So I think that the one that resolved that issue was Franklin. And he said, well, I will give the answer, the reason to both of you. We will have two houses, the lower house and the upper house. No? The House of Representatives, the lower house, that will be elected by the people. Yeah. Well, more or less you have now this. But also we will have a second house, that is the Senate. And there will be 2 senators per state. The things. So with the House of the Representatives, this solution gave the answer to the states of the South, and with the higher house, the Senate, they gave the reason to the North states of the United States. That's quite interesting solution, no? And they have, well, more or less how it works, because you have here in Africa more or less the same things. But that was a very big issue, and that was the solution. And finally, who will decide who will be the judge of the, well, the judge is so difficult. We cannot, give the appointment to the people, to the well, nowadays in some states for some judge it's possible, but in any case, will be not elected by the people, by the citizens. But let's see, of these institutions, the president, the House of Representatives, and the senator, which one are which is the institution that is farthest, more far from the people, from the common citizen? Well, 2, the Senate, that is elected by the state. Each state should decide how they will select the 2 senators, and the president. The president is not elected by the people, but by the electors. No? Many times our electors elect another elector, and the next elector will elect the president of the United States. So let's give them the possibility to elect the Supreme Court, because they are not so in the lowest place, very close to the people, but very far. And that's why they elect the Supreme Court. the members of the Supreme Court. There are many other things that you can read also, but it is interesting to know the history and why now the United States as that. No? On the other hand, as I told you, some states when they signed the Constitution, their own Constitution, not of the United States, and were part of the Union, they decide, well, as Texas, well, but we have maintained the right to leave the Union whenever we want. And you know very well how it ends because I explained that 2 weeks ago, I think so. So it is interesting. It is quite interesting to understand why there are two chambers or one. Yeah. I don't know. What do you think? If two chambers, houses, upper and lower house, is better than one, or it's better just to have one? I don't know. If any one of you have any comment on this question, I will give you some other questions. But I will say that it's quite interesting to have two chambers. Why? Because especially in some places as my country, there is a lot of political problems, conflicts, more or less like here. You have also many things. We are more or less the same in so many things, probably in most of the things. But to have time to think is good. Is good. We need time to think. All people, also researchers, professors, and also people engaged on politics and policies. They need time. To have two chambers gives you the opportunity to think a little more in what you will put in force and you will approve as a law. Well, this is more or less the story. As you can see, this war is so interesting, specifically for our subject of jurisprudence of political rights. After this, so many time passed. Nowadays, we have the same ideas of democracy, of all people should be engaged in deciding what should be our future. In so many human rights treaties, we have the right to self-determination and to choose our future, our political future, what we want to be, a monarchy, a democracy, whatever we want. That is important. And so many documents, no? For example, and this is quite interesting, is quoted in some parts in the manual that you have to read of the parliamentarians, and is the Declaration on Criteria for free and fair elections. So this is the declaration adopted by the Interparliamentary Council in some years ago. It's quite interesting. You can read this, and all of this is talks about how to do a good election without problem. How to ensure that is a fair elections. And you can see here many principles. I know the president of that institute of the world, no? The parliamentarian institute. Well, and for example, there are some principles that you, for sure, you will accept, at least most of them, no? Free and fair elections, no? In any state, the authority of the government can only derive from the will of the people, as expressed in genuine, free, and fair elections and regular intervals on the basis of universal, equal, and secret suffrage. So the next centuries after the American Revolution, there will be in America, in Europe, and around the world here also, effort to give the vote to everyone. At the very beginning, some places, well, only if you have some properties, you will be able to vote. And then, well, let's reduce, and at one point, let's delete that requirement. In the last century was also the requirement to be boys, men, women now also can vote. A good thing. I think that is a good conquer, because all rights we have between men and women, as we said in the last lecture, we have the same rights. No, there should be no exclusion for any right. The only thing that is exclusive is the maternal functions. We cannot bear babies in our womb, no? But except of that, everything should be equal. No? And we have tendencies for so many things, but just a tendency. Some women can be better than men in the tendencies, or some men can be better than women in the thing that they used to do better. But we are equal on the field of the law. We are equal in everything except in maternity. You know? In this specific thing, no? I think so. Is my opinion, obviously. No? Equal and secret suffrage. Well, how we deal, for example, with people that are blind, but it's not so easy. There are many possibilities in many states. Also today, they have no right to vote because it's so difficult. If they will be with another guy helping them, well, the guy will falsify the vote. In some other state, and it's able to go to vote with another guy, and it's possible for some people. If there are another kind of disabilities, it's easier, probably. It's easier. But these are the issues that now you have the legislation. Equal. This is so difficult. No, it's not so easy that equal. One guy, one vote. We will see. Voting and elections will every adult citizen and minors. What do you think about? I mean, well, that's adult. So in many states they reduce the notion of minor to say, well, these are adults also for matter of elections. No? Normally, in many places, after 16 years, they will be able to vote. The right to access an impartial and non-discriminatory procedure for the registration of voters, that is also so easy. You know? Many times it's so difficult, especially for the people that are not in the country. There are so many issues. You can read this long document. That's why I just want to show you how long it is. It's not so easy to read this document, but there is a lot of new rights engaged or related to elections. That is interesting. It's interesting because we're seeing these kind of things, no? But with a non-discriminatory basis. Well, this is clear, I think, no? How you can disqualify someone? Many times in many states, if you are in prison, you cannot vote. There is a movement also today, and for example, now in my country, it's possible also that the prisoners to vote. You know? why they should be excluded, no? Or another thing, no? For many years, people of the army cannot vote. Well, nowadays in so many countries can vote. Yeah. Probably in, this is a big movement. Why? Because they are also people. Remember, this is not a matter of what the law says, the statute law, but it's a matter of we are all equal, no? And we have the same dignity, and we can decide what will be our future, with the army, the navy, for example. They said no, because they have to obey to the captain, and it's easy for them not to be free. Well, you have to assure something, some possibility to be free and to put with freedom, but they are equal. They also can decide and have the right to decide what will be the future. Well, and there is a lot of things about the right of candidates to security. If you are a candidate, probably you will be not able to receive demands, denounces. Anyone cannot file you, sue you, at least in criminal cases, and probably in some civil cases too, in many countries. No? Well, you will see this. You can read this if you want. But now, let's go again with the principle of one person, one vote. It is quite important. But do you agree with this principle? I don't know. And if you agree with that principle, I want to hear from you that if is it true? Do you think that here, for example, in Kenya, one person, one vote is a principle that everyone fulfill, that in any election, or there is people that have more than one vote? What do you think? Rosalind?
I think we have one person, one vote in Kenya, because when you vote once, you can't vote again. There's a way they ensure that people don't vote more than one time.
Yeah, well, is the common answer, yes. Joyce, yes.
I think I also agree with the principle of one person, one vote, because I think a vote represents a choice you're making, and having more than one vote means having more than one choice, which I think in itself is not choosing. So I think one vote limits a person's choices, and they're able to like exercise it more effectively. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone more? I will prove that it is not true in Kenya. Anyone wants to add anything? Okay, let's go ahead with our proof. Yes, Philip.
Yeah, I think the principle of one vote, one person, one vote is in writing, but then on the ground, things are about some people being more equal than others. So some people having more voices than others because some people don't get to vote. Yeah, some people don't get to vote because people want to control what happened. Because in the last nominations for the by-election, where people didn't have, where the person who was leading, who wanted to be nominated, didn't have support, the voting process started late because of that. So it's like it's about it in principle, but in action it's zero.
Yeah, I have no idea about the political issues of Kenya first. That's why I cannot give my opinion on that things first. If there is corruption or not, I don't know. Simply, I don't know. But I will talk about technical issues, and things that I know very well. And I will show you that this phrase, the principle, one person, one vote, technically is not true in Kenya and in most of the places of the world. Do you want to see the proof? The technical proof? Okay, I did a little research of what was about how we're going the last elections. I mean, for the legislative, no? That were the results, no? And at least the results that are in the website, no? And I took the data from the website of the elections. And they used in the elections the census population of 2009 for see how many seats will be in each county. Okay, do you follow me with this? It's important because if not, you will not understand what I'm saying. It's a technical issue. It's not a political issue. So in Makueni, they have 6 seats. How many people were there in this? Well, more than 100,000 people. Specifically 111,000 people, and they had 6 seats. Okay, and then this is in order. This is in order. So it means that 18,530 people choose one candidate, one member of the legislative, one member. Do you follow me with this arithmetic thing? No? If these people decide the 6 seats, they will have 18,000 people will have decide one member of the legislative. In the Lamu County was just 100,000 people, but they decide 2 seats. So it means 50,000 people decide each member that which will be one member of the legislative. Okay, this is in order. The most powerful counties are the beginning and the less powerful, and at the end, Nairobi is in the last one. You see, 3 million people. You say, well, we have to choose more people, and more people is 17. Yes, but if you divide, you will realize that in Nairobi, for choose one member of the legislative, that member should have 184,000 votes. Do you follow me? I don't know. That is important because the conclusion is so easy. The conclusion is that one vote of Makueni represents are equal to 10 votes of the people of Nairobi. It's a technical issue. I'm not talking about corruption. I don't know that, how it works here, but I know how laws on elections work, and this is the thing that happened. So, and the same, by the way, the same happened in most of the countries around the world. It's not so easy. It's not so easy to put in force the principle one person, one vote. It's so easy when it's just one candidate, as the president, for example. And the president is so easy, but with the legislative, when you have to choose many people, no, it's not so easy. Probably normally around the world, the states, province, departments, or places, counties, whatever you want, with more people will have less than one vote normally around the world, not just in Kenya. I'm showing you that the same happened in Kenya. It's not so easy to resolve that. If you want someday, I can explain a lot of things of electoral law. That is quite interesting, but it's not so easy. Any question about this? Yes, Georgina.
I don't know. Okay, maybe I don't know. I don't understand. I haven't understood this thing, this concept of one vote of Makueni is equals to 10 votes of Nairobi.
Okay, I will explain again. That's what, but you need to know a little mathematics. So, in the last elections, if you have any problem, you can stop me in the explanation. In Makueni, they have 111,000 people, okay? And they choose 6 seats according to the things that are in the web page. So it means that almost 20,000 people, 18,000 people decide one member, okay? In Nairobi are more people. I mean, if you divide this sum, okay, let me see if I can put the pointer, okay. If you divide this sum, this number, by 6, you will have this one, okay?
Yes.
Okay, and you understand that in Makueni, 18,000 people decide which will be one member of the legislative, okay? It's okay, it is clear?
Yes, yes, it is.
Okay. In Nairobi, let's go in Nairobi, no? You have 3 million people in the register, in the list that vote. They will decide more people, 17. But if you divide this 3 million with this number, you will have this number. So it means that in Nairobi, 1,084 people, 184,000 people will elect just one member, Okay, so it means that in Makueni, if you have the same number of Nairobi, they will decide how many? 10 candidates, 10 members. Okay, now you understand or not?
Yeah, now I understand.
Okay, perfect. No, it's important to understand how it works. And it's not so easy to resolve these kind of things. It happened everywhere in the world. I have a formula that could solve this. And after long studies and seeing so many different systems, there are many issues on electoral law. Let's put another that. This question, I want to hear you something about. What do you think about? No, why the US and the UK have only 2 big parties? And I think that you and many countries, most of the countries of South America, some of the countries of Europe, obviously in China, there are places with just one party. Natalie, do you want to answer?
No, sir. I wanted to ask a question before we moved on to this.
Yeah, okay.
I was wondering whether you could comment on whether the electoral college in America worsens or betters this situation that you just explained.
Sorry, can you repeat me? I missed one part.
Oh, okay. I was wondering whether the electoral college, the American system, basically, if it worsens or betters this phenomena.
Well, that was a solution in many countries around the world. And nowadays, every country with the electoral college, they are not longer in the constitutions. Why is it still in the American Constitution? Because it's too difficult to change the constitution there. Well, it means that you have to put all the states to agree to get an agreement with all the states, and now it's not so easy. But nowadays, that things are very strange around the world. The electoral college. Okay, I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so okay, so let's go to this question: why the US and the UK have only two big parties? How many parties do you have in Kenya? More or less. More than 10? More than 5? The principal. Yes, Georgina.
I think we also have two big parties as well.
Two big
When we
parties?
talk-
And
when-
how many?
'cause
How many in the second level?
Okay, wait. When we talk parties, do we mean political?
Political
Like
parties. Yes, yes,
parties?
yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, we only have two big ones as well.
Okay, and why?
I don't know. The others are weaker, I guess. I just I don't know.
In my country, we have more or less almost 20 parties. Many times, well, you can see 3 of them are bigger, but you have also, for example, the third, the fourth, and the fifth political party have also many representatives. I don't know if this happened. It happened the same here. Many representatives, many members on the legislative institution, parliament, or whatever you want. Assembly. I think that the assembly is here. No? Well, this is a matter of the law. This is a matter of the law. It's not about culture. No, we have 10 parties. No, most of them are obviously the principal. The principal is just one, but it's so clear in the United States and in the UK that they have two big parties with a lot of members in the upper and lower house, and the other parties just as one member, two members, all together, all together. So why that happened? Why that happened? It's not a matter of culture, by the way. People used to say, no, we have many parties with more or less some candidate members in the assembly, but that is not because we have so many cultures in the country. It's a matter of the law. I will explain you so easy this. Well, let's think about this election. Yeah, in one election, the political party A gains the 25% of the vote. Okay? With this, and the second 20%, and the third one, the party C, 50%, 15%, 10%, 10%, 8%, 2%. So we have now 7 political parties. Okay? In one election. We have the result. So if the law says that, let's see, let's put a little zoom here. If the law says that in each county there will be just one member, it is called the uninominal system. Just one member. So how will be the elections on, for example, here? One county, one member is the here in Turkana. Who will win? Who will win with this result? Which party? In Turkana, with the elections. What do you think? Rosalind, yes.
Party A.
Yeah, obviously. And in another country, who will win? Once again, the same one. And the same one, the same one, and 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 the same one. So it means that with this system, if it is homogeneously more or less the votes in each county, the party number A, with the letter A, will have 47 members. Also, they will win all. The winners take it all. The system of the US. Here, the winners take it all. All. The second party will have no members, nor the third one, not the fourth one, and so on. Imagine that, this system. So it is impossible, and this is, well, in some other places, the system is different, like in Chile, for example. The binominal system, it means that in one county or land or space, there will be two members. So once again, which will be the winner in Turkana? Two members, remember, in each county. So this is the answer, please.
A and B.
A and B, yes, perfect. A and B. And then in another country, the same. And then in another country, same. And the same, 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 and the same. So it means that with this system, well, there will be two strong parties, and they will win more or less the same number of members in the legislative. This is interesting, no? And there will be a system like in the US that you have two great parties that will put half and a half in the legislative, more or less. Obviously, the way of promoting the candidates of each member, it's so different in this system, in both systems, the uninominal and binominal, because you should be focused on your propaganda or your ads or your campaign in some specific states or counties or land or departments or whatever you want. Huh? So if I see that I have many people, many followers in West Pokot, I will put all my publicity, all my propaganda campaigns there, because I know that there I will have one guy. Yeah. So it's so difficult, so different the strategy of the campaign in this system, in this electoral system. And more or less you will realize that with this system, the legislative will have half and a half. Probably in some specific place, Machaco, I don't know, the party number D will appoint one member. Yeah, that's why, but will be minimal, Now, you in Kenya have some counties that decide 6 members. Nairobi, 17 members. It allows to have members to the party A, B, C, D, E, F, E. It's so easy, and they will easily have 1 member there. It's because a matter of law, of the law. How is the law? Well, it allows it, so it allows to have in the legislative so many parties, members of so many parties. In the law of the US and of the UK, it's not in that way. That's why it's so different. It's a matter of law. It's not a matter of culture. Culture could be related, but it's not the principal factor. Okay, any question about this? It's interesting to see things that we believe many times is not so precise.
So do you think the system in the UK and the US is better?
Which is better? All our options first, all our options. I think that it's not a matter of fairness, of justice. No, there are 2 options. No? I will explain if you, because your question, the history of Chile. They have a multi-nominal system, as you in Kenya, as I in Ecuador, and that's why. And it promotes that even the most extreme party that is so crazy, well, with very strange ideas, we will have 1 person in the legislative. They decided to change to the binominal system, Chile, some time ago. And in the first elections, all the list of parties lost the election. Absolutely. So the losers. So they realized that we have to make alliance, some kind of alliance with the party of the middle. So the binominal and uninominal system, especially the binominal, promote alliance, promote dialogue, promote conversation between the most extreme person and the person that are close to them, to the left. And so the left is unified more or less, and also the right is unified more or less. And I think that to promote dialogue is good. I think that is good, because if not, well, it's easy that in a specific dramatic situation, the most extremist will have some power to do things and will not be able to talk, but just to I don't know. As I told you, both options are I think that are just. It's not a matter of fairness, but I prefer the binominal system because it promotes dialogue. That is my opinion. Obviously, you can think whatever you want, but it's a nice question. Thank you so much. Okay. Any other question? So, after seeing many of the political rights, there is a list. Today is a promotion of direct democracy with many consultants and referendums and things. But in any case, you can read a little more in the readings and also in something in the code. But I think that after seeing political rights, we can go ahead with the next part of the lecture after a break. So let's, okay, here we are again. Let's continue with our lecture of human rights. Now we will be focused on a new topic. It is the rights of the citizen and authorities. So, and this is a new part of the code also. Well, they are related in so many treaties also. You have the lectures of the Manual of Human Rights of the Parliamentarians. So, but we have to remember now one thing, that in jurisprudence, we talk about the environment, the legal system. That was the subject. What is the legal system? The philosophers, what they talk about that. In the second part of the code, we have seen the human rights more related to the person, and specifically to some part of the person, the existence or the intelligence or the will or the body. That was the second part that we finished the last week. The more, in some sense, human rights more directly related to the human being, more related to the core human being, the human being in itself. And there is a third part that is about the actions. We will not see that. There are not so many treaties about that. There are many laws in your country and around the world about that. But because there is not so related with human rights, we will not see that. But there are many treaties about the relations between people, the relations between people. And you will see what kind of relation. You can imagine that now. That kind of direct relation between two or more people could be related to the human rights treaties, declarations, and so on. This is part number 4 that talks about interpersonal relationships. And finally, the last part is related to the relation of the person with some specific goods, assets. And this is the part of the person-goods relationships. We have some treaties that talk about that. For example, if the good is culture, well, there is a lot of treaties about the right to culture, and also of everyone, or the collectivities also, right to each own culture, its identity is also there, and the right to freedom of expression. We will see that later. But now we have to be focused in this part of the legal relationship and the specific things related to human rights. So these are the interpersonal relationships. How many kinds of interpersonal relationships do you think that could be? For example, in an agreement, that is one kind. Well, I will ask also in a specific agreement of, for example, selling a computer that woman has in her hands. Or the 4 causes. This could be, I will just mention here, but it's good to know, to remember that technique. What will be in the cause of the material cause will be the people, here. Specifically the relation between two people. In that relation, the material cause is the people. The agent cause is the will that decides to sell and buy. two wheels is the agent that cause that relation between them. The formal cause is the legal bond, the formal cause. And finally, which will be the aim, the final cause, the aim of this relation. Well, we can say, well, one of them should be acquire the computer and another acquire the money. Well, but these two things normally are called a common good. It's not just the good of one party, but both. Is the good of both parties, the common good. It will be the same in every interpersonal relationship, in everyone. So there will be many, you will see. But in any case, well, and once again, I will put the question here. How many interpersonal relationships do you have in mind that could be? I gave you an example of the one agreement, but there could be many other. Ooh. Can you give me some examples?
Can we base it on the levels of dependency? So
yeah,
perhaps
perfect. For example,
direct relations, for example, within families, then the smaller community.
Smaller community, perfect. You are reading the. You don't have the book, but you will read the index and you will see that family, community, and what we have three now: contracts, parts, agreements, family. Which other could be community? Which kind of communities?
There could be religious communities.
Yeah. Which other?
Okay, the other. Sorry.
Which other?
Which other kind of community?
Or relation?
I don't know. Employment relationships.
Employment, perfect. Okay. Perfect.
Also, a higher level would be the person and the government.
And the government, perfect. You said almost all the index of the fourth part. The index is this, it's just the types of personal relationships. So first of all, the first relation of dependence of origin is with one person. That is with God. Okay, there is a transcendental relationship, as we said, no? We said the transcendental relationship is not a legal relationship, but has a lot of consequence in the field of the law, in the legal systems, in the behavior of the people. So it's related to the law, although this relation is not a legal relationship. Okay. For example, the freedom of religion to do many things related to religion. No? Then the individual with her family, no? And there you can find many kinds of family relationships. For example, marriage is the first one. Marriage is a family relationship. That is important to remember. It's not just an agreement. No, it's a relation that begins the notion of family. Then parents, child. It's another relationship. The relationship between siblings. It's also a kinship, big kinship. And finally, that is quite interesting, a relation with the whole humanity. It's not a relation of a kind of agreement with humanity. There is not agreement. Not is because we are equal. No, 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 no. It's more than that. No, a relation with the whole humankind is a relation of family. Family. We have the same origin. Well, there is also some proofs in the DNA that we have the same mitochondrial origin. So it means that we are family. It's more than no, we are equal. No, no, no. It's not just we are equal. We are a family, and that is so deep, and that's why it's the relation with humanity is stronger than the relation of the state. The state is a creation, a fiction of our minds. We create and we put our borders. The border between Kenya and Tanzania is here, not there. Why? No, because we decide. But we don't decide which will be our family, our origin, our parents, or siblings. Yeah, this is a stronger relationship, the relation with between us, no? Between us. Then is another relation between friends. Yeah, it's a kind of relation as the relation with God. It is not a legal relationship, but as the relation of to God, it is also a relation with some legal effects. Some, not so many, but some. Okay, finish. Then the intermediate societies. That is the relation with your community, with your county, with your company, in the place in which you work. So many things. No? There are so many. Your club, with your gym, or I don't know. So many intermediate societies. Many times they need a kind of agreement, many times not. We will see a little, not too much of this. There is also the civil society, the society of in each place, no? That is with more people. It's not so close, it's with more people. You are a member of that society. No? And finally, the state, no? That is another community, but the political community. These are relations of citizenship. Okay. And finally, there is the last level, yeah, not just between the individual, but between so many people, the international community. And there you can find so many treaties, customs, the humanitarian law. Remember, no? The Francisco de Vitoria, the problem of Mexico, and the Aztec Empire, and so on. Well, that is a part of the humanitarian law, or many others, good and not so good treaties, pacts, agreements, and so on. So this more or less is the index of the code, of the fourth part of the code. We will see just the part related to human rights. For example, freedom of religion, we will see next week. This week, we will see the relation between the citizens with the state, with the authorities. That you have a lot of human rights proclamations, treaty declarations, and so on. And something about family too. And a little about friendship, but not so much. So let's go ahead with the same question that I asked you a few minutes ago. The four causes. Well, the four causes is also the material cause in every one of these relationships. Is the material cause is the individual here God or family or the community or the political community or the international community. That is the material cause. The legal bond, that is the formal cause, or will be the specific legal bond, no? The transcendental relationship, the family relationship, the friendship. This is the form of the relation. The form of the relation with your friends is the friendship. It's clear? No, it's clear. The form of the relation with the state is that you are a citizen of that state. That is the form. Then the agent cause could be many in family relationships and could be born of some parents, for example. And the final cause, and this is important. This is important, probably the most important idea in this question. No? In all of them, the final cause or the aim or the goal of the relation is the common good, the good of both parties, the good of everyone. That is the aim. That is the thing that moves all the human behavior. The good, not only mine, but of all the people. Okay, more or less. And it's very good. And you, when you read the code, try to think about what could be the good of the family, what could be the good of the friendship, and then you just thinking will get the answer without reading. Or you can critique the answer of the code. You can see, no, there is a need to add or to delete something here, and I will appreciate so much to hear that to improve the code. I really improved so many parts of the code with the comments of my students. Also in this subject and in jurisprudence. Thank you so much for your help. So let's go to the relation between this guy that is walking very pleasant in the street without mask, as you can see, and suddenly there is a policeman guard. And the guard stopped this guy and said, well, why are you walking? You have no mask. And the law says that you have to wear a mask because we are in a terrible pandemic crisis. I don't see, if you are not wearing the mask, I will put you, I will give you to the judge and you will go to prison. So, some questions here. I will give you some questions and I will give you some answers if I'm able to do that. What authorities are for? This is the main question. Why the policeman can stop this guy? Second question. Why they have guns? Well, in some places, citizens can have some kind of guns, arms, weapons, but not so much. No? A missile or some kind of or I don't know the weapons. The normal citizen is not allowed to have. What the policemen have when they have unlimited powers. This is a deep question. Which will be the limit of their power? I think that all of you will agree that they have no unlimited powers. But think a little more. Which could be the limits of their power?
Can we say authorities are there for order, like to ensure order? in the society.
Very good. This is the half of the traditional answer of the classics of political philosophy. But good, order. We need to put order in a city. We need that. But it's just the half. Rosalind.
Yes.
Sorry, Tasnim. You raised your hand.
Yes, I was actually going to talk. Yes, we have policemen or authorities are there to enforce order, but I think they're also there to promulgate the good for everyone. So because we're talking about all of these relationships and these legal bonds right now, I would relate it back to the topic by saying that the authorities are established as a result of these legal bonds and relationships. And therefore, because the formal cause of these other relationships are to promulgate good in society, they are also there to enact that very object as well.
Okay, you are daughter of this last century. In the early centuries, the philosophical authors just said, well, the state is just to put order, security, and to protect the rights of the people. But in the last century, there are many people that say, well, it's for something more. It's just not about of security, order, protection of rights, but it's also the promotion of the common good, of the well, they say of the welfare or many other names. But this is a recent theory. And on the other hand, is a develop of the medieval theory of common good. This is a development, just a development. That is a good extension, new extension. Okay, so that is quite important. And why they have guns, weapons, force? Just for that. The answer is just for that. They have not power for example, to promote themselves and to have the personal welfare. No, it's the common good, the welfare of everyone. That is the reason, the reason of all the competencies and the rights and the position that they have. So they cannot use for any other purpose. That is so clear. That's why it's so important, specifically in political issues, to know what is the aim, what authorities are for. No, because you cannot do anything more beyond that. You can, and I will give you the whole powers the wolves used to give in the theory of Hobbes, to the Leviathan, to the state, all the powers, but for one specific purpose. And Leviathan of Hobbes is just security, and peace. Now we say, well, let's add the welfare. So, do they have unlimited powers? Of course not. Of course not. Which could be these limits? Well, it's so easy in theory, you know. Let's talk about the legitimate exercise of powers. Well, it's so easy. Is to seek the common good, to achieve the common good, no? And within the limit of power that we will see, and in which way? Not in any way, not in some totalitarian states where there are no limits. No, if I have to achieve the common good, I can kill anyone because it's better the good of the state than the good of the individual. No? So No, it should be in an honestly and a rationally way. And also respecting the government, well, which includes, you will read what it includes. And the limit generally is so easy because all the powers are limited first. The facts and the limitations of the material and personal reality. If we have no money, well, we cannot give you everyone so many things. If we are a wealthy country, it's easy to give everyone vaccination, for example, for coronavirus, no? Or it's easier in wealthy countries to resolve some kind of crisis that need more money and things. No? The necessary law, obviously, what is the necessary law? What is reasonable? You cannot be unreasonable. No? This is the meaning of the necessary law. Nowadays, authorities have a lot of rational controls. The principle of proportionality, of reasonableness, are controls all the decisions. Yeah, because the decisions that they take should be controlled by the reason, specifically the reason. For cultural conceptions, and we talk about in jurisprudence, in each society could be textually the same phrase. But you could apply this with a margin of appreciation. Yeah, this is so important. Let me see. So you can have exactly the same phrase in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and in the African Charter, but probably you have to apply the same phrase with some margin of appreciation according to your culture. Nowadays, in the human rights courts, and everywhere, not just in the criminal courts also, and the civil courts also, around the world, they are introducing a right of the indigenous people to ask some expert to show to the judge which is the vision of that culture about this right. And well, they use that to decide cases. That is interesting. Well, and the positive law, the things that the positive law establish also, and the quiet rights of the people. If you have a right, well, they have to protect that right, and that is a limit of the power of the authorities, as you can imagine. You will have all these things in the code. So let's put another question. That is an easy, no? There is a hierarchy among the police guys, in the army, and in the state. Yeah. So the question is, when there is an order from the superior, who is the responsible? The policeman that is talking with you, or the captain? Later, should the police carry out the captain's order? Is the same question, because the policeman is just obeying, fulfilling, complying the law. The law is a higher institution, the legislative. When he cannot fulfill that order, not fulfill. And finally, when he should not.
I think I'll attempt an answer based on one of the recent situations, like in the US, where the military commanders in the US they issued a statement regarding what they'll do in the event that the outgoing president issues an order that's not legitimate. And I think they set out some 3 principles that they normally would follow based on each of the orders. So it's an objective kind of criterion. One of them is that there needs to be an identifiable target of the order. The order needs to be, I think, lawful or legitimate. Sorry, I'll look at what the exact criterion was, but they set out 3 different rules that they would normally follow to determine whether or not to carry out an order by a superior. So it's an objective kind of criterion.
Yeah, legality is also a criteria, but imagine that this guy is from the Nazi regime, and the law says, well, you have to kill that Jew, Duta, yes.
So I think both the officer and the superior are responsible. In the past, the idea was that the officer was one responsible, but I think after I think it was the Nuremberg trials, the Tokyo trials, they found that even the officers could be personally responsible for their actions. So I think, and based on that, they can non-fulfill an order when it is clearly unjust.
Okay. I will give the word to Peace, that is the first time that she wants to talk.
Yeah, so I'll answer question 3. So when he should not fulfill the order, I think if it does not go towards the common welfare and the common good of the people, then the police should not fulfill the order given by the captain.
Yeah, but this is so difficult. That answer theoretically is good, but it's not so easy many times because, well, some guy could think, well, this is not part of the common good, and the authority, no, this is part of the common good, and the judge could say, well, more or less, and the president, no, this is part. So there will be many, what it means common good, but that is good for the society, no? And Hitler could say, no, it's good for the society, and I have the judge, and I have the parliament, and I have the policeman, and all of us think that to kill this guy is good for the society. That is the common good. So this is not easy. There are some criteria, as Arthur said, in some states, but also that criteria not are so easily to put. At least the jurisprudence of human rights says, well, at least crimes against humanity cannot be fulfilled anywhere, in any time. So if the policeman is obeying the captain, the policeman will have liability, criminal liability for doing that. Even if he said that he was obeying the orders of the captain. So at least this is clear now, and there is a phrase in many human rights treaties about that. No? At least this is clear. Other things many times are not so clear. The criteria of reasonableness, they have, well, the proportionality of the measures, that there are also, no? And it is clear. On the other hand, they have to obey the law also, no? Because the law put the limits of his powers. Remember, we are talking about the limits, and we have read, well, the reasonableness, the rights of the people, the quiet rights, and so many other things. So let's go ahead with the following question. Well, imagine now this guy is in trouble. Why? Because he has in front, well, all the police men trying to stop him, to avoid him, to put this guy home prison, can they use force in case if someone is not wearing the mask, his mask? It's a material mask. This is a simple case that I'm giving to you to resolve. Well, in theory, it's so clear. Well, common good, reasonableness, the rights of the people. But what are the rights of the people? This guy have the right to walk without mask or not? No, if he knows about the ticking bomb and he don't want to reveal it. This case, we discussed that second case. Let's focus in the first one.
So, in most instances, when police people act, there's the aspect of reasonable force that needs to be applied. And yes, in theory, it all sounds good on paper, but in practice, this can also be applied through a policeman knowing how to act in if a person is clearly resisting and they become violent, then the police person does then have the ability to act against them with reasonable force in a manner that would ensure that they are fulfilling the object of their role. But then if the person is not lashing out against them, then I think the person in authority would then have to again apply reasonable force.
This guy is just walking. He's not putting any force, but without mask.
In that case, then the police man or woman should not act aggressively towards them, because there would be.
Did you see the videos of China, of policemen tackling people that are not wearing masks and these kind of things? It's incredible.
But that shouldn't be allowed at all.
Joy, yes. Didn't you want to say something?
I feel like what I wanted to say was related to what Catherine said, but I can just state that the concept of proportionality, I think in this case would apply.
Do you think that is proportional to use the force here?
I don't think so. I think it all boils down to what you want to achieve. Because if you beat someone up, will at the end of the day, will they like wake up and wear them?
Or to put in jail this guy?
I don't know. Like proportionality, I think proportionality has to do with what do you want to achieve. Yeah. And if the person is objecting or obstructing that.
Peace, yes.
I don't think you should put them in jail, or you should like beat them or something. You can have something like getting a fine for like something.
Fine is not a physical force, obviously, but it's a kind in some sense. A fine, yes. Well, it depends. I will say for me it depends. Obviously, physical force is so difficult here because, well, to put a mask, no? A fine also, it could be good, but also depends how critical is the situation. Because if you have low numbers of coronavirus, but if you have more numbers and many people passing away, I remember my city when I won, where I won, Guayaquil, there were lines of people in front of the cemeteries waiting 3, 4, 5 hours to bury the people, the families, because there were many cases in my country, many cases. And if that is the situation, probably the authorities will have more powers because they will can put more measures, and we will proportional to greater risks, greater problems, issues. Okay, and we can say that we can repeat this of part number 2, limit 195. It is fair and understandable that people defend themselves against dangers. Also, the policemen against the some critical issues in society. And the doctrine of the legitimate defense needs to include some precise things. The right direct intention is not to harm. Yeah, the policemen cannot harm because they have the excuse to harm that guy. No, the intention should be another. Then there is a certain threat of serious harm. There is a lot of people that, well, say, no, coronavirus is not so clearly how we can deal with that. Well, there will be a level of uncertainty, but in any case, some level of certainty you have to acquire in order to put some force, some pressure, some defense. There is no other less harmful means of protection. These things that you told, well, probably not to hit that guy, no, but probably to put a fine, no, is less harmful. There is a good proportion, yeah, the contribution of peace, the proportionality, yeah, you should weight that, the proportionality of the measure, that is so important. And nowadays there is a lot of technique to measure the proportionality of each measure. Well, obviously the person who initiates the attack is not entitled to respond with force against the defense. That is so important, no? The guards, if they attack, cannot say, well, that guy was attacking us. No, it's because you are attacked. Then this guy first. Or on the other hand, the guy attacked first. The policeman, they have the right to defend themselves. And if that guy attacked with a gun, the police will have the right to defend themselves with a gun also. So this is quite important. No? What is one of the criteria of self-defense of any human being and also of the authorities. Well, let's continue. Things are going worse and worse. This guy has friends. So they decide, well, we have to stop the policemen because they are trespassing our rights. Are they allowed to civil disobedience or not? What do you think? Or even to resist the commands of the authorities using the force? Or even to attack with a gun and kill the principal. What do you think about it?
Yeah, we said the most important thing is the common good. So we can't allow civil disobedience or for them to resist using force. Yeah.
Yeah, you will say yes. It's a matter of mask.
Mm.
You will say yes to what? To civil disobedience, to active resistance, or to even to kill the principal?
Well, I'm not sure if I would say yes to any of them.
Yeah, there should be. That is why it's so important, the doctrine of the legitimate defense, to know very well the requirements, the conditions, and in this way you can answer this, because it is the same. It is the same. So I will say that well, there is a general right to resist the unjust, unfair things. Obviously, if the law is just, you cannot resist. But okay, every person has the right to resist the rules and just act, or the illegitimate authorities, illegitimate nominated, that is different. And the authorities seriously and repeatedly violate due justice. So there are three things here, three different things. First, one rule could be unjust. Second, the appointment of an authority is unjust and you can resist that. And third, the appointment of the authority was just, was fairly elected, that authority. Nobody questioned that. No complaint about that. But after 2 years in the power, the authority began to act with an incredible behavior, attacking everyone, the rights of and the property of this guy and the other and the other and the other. So is well appointed, but is unjust in that charge. So we can resist the three things: the rule, the appointment, and the unjust behavior of the authority. And there is a right passive resistance, reluctant to obey, that is reluctant to obey the authority. When it's passive, when you are just in a strike, for example, the requirements, the conditions are less. You just have to see if it is certainly unjust, the rule or the behavior or the appointment. There are no other legal remedies to override it, less harmful solutions. Remember, it's the same requirements of the legitimate defense. And obviously, the disobedience causes no worse disorders than obedience. If you realize that just with the strikes against masks, there will be a spread of the virus and things will go worse, probably you have not that right. I don't know. Well, more or less, this is for the passive resistance. This is the passive resistance, not to do anything. And there are less requirements, conditions to do that. But on the other hand, what happened with the active resistance, with guns, with weapons, even killing the ones that have the power, no? Well, you will need more requirements, no? In case of necessity, obviously, there should be an unjust act, but not just an unjust act, but certain, truly certain, serious and prolonged violation of fundamental rights. It's just not the right. You are asking me 100 shillings more than, and no, it should be serious attack, a serious attack, uncertain attack to fundamental rights. All resources for peaceful conflict resolution have been exhausted. That's why you cannot go with an army against the state, because, well, there is, well, some little problems. No, the insurrection doesn't cause war disorders, the second requirement. Only violence proportionate to evil things fought is used. And finally, there are granted hopes of success. More or less the same requirements of legitimacy. All of them are related, as you can see. It's even allowed to kill the principal when there is no escape, no, in the war screen, as Hitler, no? As Hitler. I think that is the usual example in this case. But you have to fulfill that there is another way to do that. Yeah. These are the classical, by the way, requirements of these things. Nowadays, you have the right to resistance in many constitutions around the world, in some laws and declarations also. Finally, resistance to an unjust law, you can read it. Well, yeah, because I want to show you another case that should be very interesting. Let's see the same guy. Same guy now is walking to his work in a hospital. He is a doctor. He's a doctor. And he deals with many problems. Someone in the hospital could ask, well, you have to assist the suicide of this other guy. I will not speak about the morality of this thing, but at least this guy thinks that, well, my conscience doesn't allow me to assist the suicide of anyone, no? Because I really think that I studied for help people and not for kill people. All the arguments that you can imagine, this guy have in his mind, and he refused. Does he have the right to refuse or not? He refused that, and the authorities of the hospital asked to the policeman, to the judge even, no, well, this guy is not obeying us. What happened? He should obey or not?
I'm going to base this off of one of the readings we had where they talk about something called conscientious objection.
Perfect.
And basically what the author says is it has to be, it should be subjected to a reasonableness test where you have to see that it's a firmly established belief based on whatever they are basing their objection to. So it has to be assessed, but people generally do have a right to conscientious objection, but within certain limits.
Yeah, it's so clear that this guy, this is an easy case. This is an easy case. Obviously, this guy had the right to say, well, at least I don't know what is the law, what is the regulation of this hospital, and well, or there is a bigger authority that commands you to do that, like the legislative. But now we have everyone the right to the clause of conscience in hospitals, in media, in the public offices, in so many places. There are specific conscience clauses. You will read about the specific conscience clauses. But things are not so easy always. Things are not so easy. This is an easy case. One of the first that filed a conscience clause in the United States was Henry David Thoreau. Precisely in the Civil War of the United States. He said, I want not to fund that war, and that's why I will not pay any tax. Because you will use my money for a war in which I not agree. It is possible or not to pay taxes because my conscience tell me, well, the president is doing so bad, so I will not pay taxes. Who of you have no complaint with the authorities of your country? At least a little. Are you able to say, no, my conscience prohibits me, bans me absolutely to pay this for fund these kind of activities? Do you think that in tax law it's possible to declare the conscience clause or not? No one of you? Well,
Would the assumption be that it's not only going to those bad activities, that it's also in the interest of the entire community to pay to fund other things that they may be doing with the money, so you don't have a right not to pay it?
Natalie, yes. Same answer.
My answer is, yeah, it's similar. It's not proportional, I don't think. It's not very reasonable.
Yeah. I will say, I will say that I think that this guy have that right, yes. But you have to regulate better. I will explain a little later, but I will put a second example. Time ago, everyone should go to army, just boys, just men, not women. Time ago. It was compulsory, no? But many people realize in so many countries around the world that if they say, well, my conscience ban me to do that, they will be free of doing that. No? And many people filed a conscience clause in their countries and they were free. But at one point they realized, well, everyone is doing that. No? What do we have to do? And they double check the same regulation. And they say, well, if you let's see first, and this could be some issue in jurisprudence of Europe, especially. First, if this is a matter of conscience or just preference. Conscience, it is bad for me, for my life, for my existence. First, conscience should be a matter of good and bad, not preference. No, I think that is better not to do that. No, it is a sin for me to do that. No? Second, what is the problem? Because if the problem is you cannot use weapons because your religion bans it, well, don't worry, we will give you another kind of work, but you have to do the same. And I think that should be exactly the same with the matter of taxes. If you put a clause saying, well, I don't want that my money fund, I don't know, one specific programs because I think that is against the human being, well, the state will not be able to use that money for that purpose, but will be able to use your taxes for another thing that you agree. And I think that is the way of resolving that clause of Henry David Thoreau. That is an historical objection clause. It's an historical, very famous, very famous. And you have to see many things. You have to see also, for example, let's put this, you will read, no? If the state can accept or not who commands and who, if it is the authority or is the principal of your hospital, public or private authority, what is required, no? If it is crucial for the defense of the nation or not, or it is an act or an omission. There could be two possibilities, no? It's just not to do anything. Well, it's probably easier, no? And what is the moral standard of the religion, of the society, and so many things, and the objector's positions and the circumstances. Many times, for example, it's so easy to the authorities. There are people, for example, that don't believe that some marriages are good or not so good in places in which, and they say, well, I'm a public officer, I don't want to deal with these kind of things. Well, I think that there will be no problem for the authorities to put another guy to resolve that cases in the way that the authorities want to resolve. It's so easy. It's so easy to do that, and remember here, what is the goal here in matters of conscience clause? The goal here is that everyone acts according to their conscience, and this is a good thing. And if it is so easy to other people people to realize themselves with according to the concepts without any problems for society. Well, let's do that. It's a very high goal, that one. As you can see, there are so many things you have to read. Just a word of the coronavirus crisis in this galaxy and the states of emergency. Well, you know very well that with coronavirus in so many places there is a new emergency state asking so many things. Well, the scholars used to say that the Constitution have two kinds of readings, a positive and a negative reading. A positive that protects all the rights of the people, and a negative in emergency state. When there is a serious and exceptional problems, they have exceptional powers. No? Great problems need great powers to resolve. No? This is more or less the lesson of Spider-Man. Well, there is a phrase of the uncle of Spider-Man, more or less like that. Well, and that's why naturally the states have some special powers to do that, but should be, once again, proportionate, circumscribed to the evil circumstance to solve that evil things, and temporarily limited. Well, there is a lot of things in emergency states. You can read that, and we will talk about also the last part. You will read that just was one slide of the right of indigenous people. We have seen this case. Just I will show you when we spoke about the right of development. The right of, in this case, that was in Kenya, of Ndoro's peoples. Well, again, the Human Rights Court, in that case, well, to the land and to the things. So indigenous have, we will see a little of cultural rights of the indigenous people. We say something in this lesson also. It's a treaty, the Convention 169 that you should read. This is a specific question that could be interesting to think, the notion of tribal peoples, and then just was one how to apply this convention, because the convention, the most important part of the convention just give you a rule. If you will decide something about peoples, indigenous peoples, you need to ask them. This is compulsory. If not, that decisions will be invalid, will be null. But it is not compulsory to obey the thing that they decide. If the state can decide without asking them about these politics or policies, well, will be null. But if the state asks and do exactly the contrary, will be valid. It's just a matter of asking. So many people say that it's not enough. Well, also it's not so easy to resolve that cases. You can think about which will be the best solution to protect indigenous rights. Well, but for today, it's done.